South Africa's new police minister, Senzo Mchunu, has promised an overhaul of the police management system as part of efforts to rein in the country's alarming crime levels after taking over from Bheki Cele in Cyril Ramaphosa's new government of national unity. Mchunu outlined his priorities to confront crime at a briefing in Pretoria yesterday. Let's now get some reaction to this, to the police minister's strategy. Joining us now is the chairperson of the Police Portfolio Committee, Ian Cameron. Ian, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Ian, I have to start off here. You know, when I saw your reaction to what the minister had to say yesterday, it got me wondering whether or not we'll be able to get critical analysis from GNU partners who are also part of oversight bodies, like, for instance, the Police Portfolio Committee, where the executive is actually failing. What do you say to that? What's your intention as the committee's chairperson?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I don't think we have the luxury of not being a decent oversight body. We're in too big a trouble in South Africa when it comes to crime specifically. I mean, we've got over 85 murders per day, 135 rapes minimum per day, not even mentioning all the other numbers. It's a complete bloodbath. So we don't have that luxury. That being said, it's important that we at least give the minister an opportunity to settle in. I must also say that, you know, it would be unfair to, and this isn't necessarily directed to you, I'm just saying this generally, it would be unfair to say that just because you're part of the GNU, you can't give objective analysis or objective overview or oversight, sorry, from a portfolio committee point of view. Remember that when that portfolio committee walks into the room, all the political party hats are meant to be taken off. So from my side, I didn't get involved in the political side of things to play politics. I got involved because of the state of the South African Police Service, and I've said that from the very beginning. So yeah, I think we've got an opportunity to fix things, and we need to get stuck in.
Yeah, but still, though, with that said, you're part of the government of national unity, and if there wasn't a government of national unity, I wonder if your take would have been that this morning I welcome the assurance from Police Minister that they will give SAPS, the National Commissioner, and his team the space to deal with the actual policing work, or would you have been a bit more reluctant? What is it about Minister Senzo Mchunu's approach to policing that gives you the assurance that this is actually an individual who is committed to fighting crime?
Well, it's the first time in 12 years that we've heard a minister actually saying that he's going to give the National Commissioner the opportunity to be the National Commissioner. So that's point number one. You would have also noticed during my time in the civil rights space that we always said that General Fani Masemola on paper had everything that he needed to have to be the National Commissioner, but that he was often overshadowed by the minister. I don't think criticism previously, whether by myself or someone else, was necessarily unnecessary. I think it was necessary. It's important to continue as well. But at the same time, I can't criticize the minister after 2 weeks in office. So it's important that we give them an opportunity. We met with the portfolio committee, or our first sitting was in the past week, and it was a discussion that was extremely robust. In fact, it was a 7.5-hour discussion, and there was no holding back from anyone, regardless of which party they belonged to. And it demanded straight answers. So hopefully we can continue on the same note.
Yeah, and from a police management side, what is it that, at least from the portfolio committee side, do you expect police to be responding in terms of the questions that are being raised by the portfolio committee timeously as well? Because those have been some concerns that have been raised during the previous tenure of Police Minister Bheki Cele.
So far, there have been responses already. We've sent several requests already, and there have been responses. I'm very concerned about the way the budget has been set up. I'm concerned about the fact that I don't hear enough about police members on the ground and supporting them in terms of the budget. I will be communicating that later this morning in my budget vote speech, where we will discuss that we want the necessary amendments to be made later this year, because I don't see that specialized units get the attention that they need. I don't see police police wellness getting the attention that needs. And remember that police or crime detection rates are at an all-time low. And I also don't see the relevant budget for that. We're only seeing a 5% increase for detectives in South Africa. And it's one of the things that we've got the most dire need for. We are not investigating crime adequately because detectives have an average of over 300 dockets each to carry. So I think on a positive note, what has been said, and remember, until the proof is in the pudding, so until then it's still lip service. But what has been said so far was that there would be clamped down on corruption. It's something we've heard for a very long time with very little action. The questions that we've already posed to the National Commissioner as well as the Minister were all related to corruption. And obviously we have to follow due process for the feedback on that, and we'll communicate it publicly as soon as possible. But I am concerned about the budget allocation, and I do believe that we're not doing enough to support the good cops on the ground.
And with that budget allocation, of course, it hampers the fight against crime. And the points that have been raised before is that because of that vacuum that has been left open, it has given space for crime to become more rampant. On the other end as well, more and more people relying on private security, and private security becoming even more resourceful and having more tools than what our police have.
Absolutely. So they've spoken about technology in the budget allocation. I'm concerned about the fact that it's good to have that budget, and it's good to hopefully implement it. But I think it's important that public-private partnerships are encouraged, at least for the time being, to make sure that we bridge the gap. Something that I'm worried about too is, and that's another thing that I will mention later today, is the increase in the VIP protection budget. Now, it's not a massive increase compared to previous budgets, but there is still an increase. Now, I say there should actually be a decrease, and we should rather use that money to give ordinary South Africans a chance to have fair and proper policing that they haven't had for so many years. You know, I'd go to specific, let's choose a township like, for example, Mfuleni or Tembisa. Those are places that have dire needs for policing, and we could actually do a lot about it by just purely ensuring that VIP protection doesn't get the funding that it supposedly needs. I don't believe it does. Something that I also think should be encouraged is that the relevant threat assessments are done to determine whether certain so-called VIPs need the protection that they are getting, and that it's not just a status symbol.
Yeah. So how do you envisage that process unfolding? Let's make an example. The Democratic Alliance, for instance, had said that it doesn't want to be using blue lights and so forth. How do you foresee the Ministry of Police dealing with that particular element around ensuring that you bring down the cost of VIP protection?
Well, we as a portfolio committee will definitely push for the cost to be brought down and for the budget to be amended later in 2024. As with several other things on the budget, I've already met with several people to get input regarding this, and from the portfolio committee side at large, we'll get the necessary stakeholders around the table within the committee to consult regarding that budget. But amendments should be made by the end of the year or later this year, and then we'll move on with that. And regardless whether it's the DA or any other political party, there's no reason to be spending all this money on VIP protection, especially while ordinary South Africans are suffering the way they are.
Another issue is with the men and women on the ground in blue, of course, is whether they are fit for purpose. And here speaking about physically fit for purpose, but also the necessary acumen that is required for a policeman or woman. What's your assessment of our policemen and women?
So there are pockets of excellence, but those pockets are scarce at the moment. They are very scarce at the moment. And one of the clear things that have been identified over the years was that there was no real career direction or career plan for the individual cop. You know, the frustration on the ground is that you can be a career cop with extensive experience, but you'll stay a sergeant or a warrant officer for 35 years or more, or a captain for that matter. And you simply cannot get promoted unless you're connected to the right people. And when merit promotions are made, they are few and far in between. So, in-service training is crucial, but we would have to go and look at training specifically too. If you look at the Philippi Training College in Cape Town at the moment, it is literally being starved by corruption. everyone knows that corruption is blatantly being committed there. They know about it. Investigations have been done, but no one has been arrested yet. So we've asked the National Commissioner, I think it was on Sunday afternoon, when can we expect action to be taken? For over 6 years, the place wasn't audited. So we can't expect to train decent police officers and to do in-service training when the training institution itself is not fit for purpose. So we'd have to tackle it, figuratively speaking, from the top and from the bottom, and with that meet each other in the middle and clean it up from the top and from the bottom, and hopefully we'll then see a better result.
And the safety and security of those police officers as well. The minister saying yesterday that anyone who attacks a police officer is declaring war on the state. We just reported now of an incident where a police officer was shot and killed in the Eastern Cape. Yes, indeed. Your response to that as the portfolio committee, and should we see some changes in legislation that once you murder a police officer, that is actually, as the minister says, an attack on the state?
I don't think it's necessarily a change in legislation. I think existing legislation just needs to be implemented properly and needs to be used properly, because that's not happening. We don't have the specialized capacity to hunt down whoever the killers are. I'm worried about the fact that so many off-duty officers get killed, especially detectives that are investigating high-priority crimes. And you must remember that we don't really have many specialized units. At the moment, we've got station-level members investigating very serious and organized crime. They are at threat. They've got no form of protection, and every time we mention something like that, Colonel Charles Kinnear comes up, and the fact that his protection was actually removed by the police shortly before he was assassinated. So we need to ask those questions. We need to clean house inside first. What bothers me is that at the moment we're expecting a station-level cop to investigate an organized ring of criminals locally. And that same criminal's, say for example, child is going to the same school that the child of the detectives is going to, and obviously that is a major cause for concern. It opens up the door for extortion, bribery, and the list goes on.
Another issue which is a major concern is kidnappings, and especially kidnappings of foreign businessmen and women in the country. Your response to that as a portfolio committee, and what you believe should be done to deal with the increasing number of kidnapping cases that are being reported?
Yeah, so the task team was established. I see in the last 3 weeks there have been significant successes regarding it. So I think it seems positive. We'd have to look at long-term statistics, especially for this coming financial year, or this current financial year. Sorry. The challenging thing with a lot of the foreign business people being kidnapped is that sometimes some of them are not in South Africa legally. And another part is that they trade with large amounts of cash that they also keep on them, and so it opens up the door for kidnapping for ransom. And often ransom is paid because of a loss of faith in the state to actually do something. So I hope the successes that we've seen over the last 3 weeks in terms of kidnapping does increase, and we see it being consistent, and therefore we can hopefully expect that we will turn the tide of kidnapping. I think it was about 1.5 years ago. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but I think we actually passed Mexico with regards to kidnapping rates. Remember that kidnapping also shows an increase because of the increase in hijackings in South Africa, where victims are actually loaded in the vehicle and then dropped off later on. So it still counts as kidnapping, although strictly speaking, it is not kidnapping for ransom. But there is a significant increase over the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. That is the newly elected chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Police, Ian Cameron. Really appreciate your time.